All right, so if you watched my last video, I showed you guys this Subaru briefly, and I showed you a major problem I was having, and I didn't know why I was having. I still don't know why, but I have a theory. So here was the issue I was having. You could see a bunch of like little black spots. And originally I thought it was the metallic clumping up. So on the next few metallic jobs, what I did was I over-reduced my silvers, and that still didn't fix the problem. Although it wasn't as bad, because part of what contributed to this particular car being so bad was the fact that I cleared it and then I baked it and then I threw more base on top. So from what I understood in one of the comments in the last video is the solvents in my base basically just chewed up that layer of clear that I put on there, which made a lot of sense. The gentleman said I should have put 2 coats of clear. Again, made a lot of sense. Probably should have put 2 coats of clear and it wouldn't have exacerbated the existing issue. Nonetheless, I still had the problem on the next car that I painted that was also silver. So what I did was I called my jobber. I explained to him what was going on, the issue I was having, and I gave him my best guess as to why it was happening. But I told him, I said, look, that's my best guess, which was a bad toner. But I said, doesn't really make much sense because I don't have any toners that I ordered recently that would be giving me this problem. But I really don't have any other idea what the hell could be causing this because I've never seen it before. And he was thinking for a little bit. And what he came up with is a lot better of a guess than mine, I have to admit, which is why I called him because, you know, these guys deal with all sorts of issues all the time. It's their job to make sure they have a solution for your issue. This way you keep using their paint. So what he came up with was, maybe it's your hose. And I said, what? My hose? He said, yeah, it's possible that over time, those hoses deteriorate on the inside and spit out things like little black spots. Now I'm gonna seal my fender and my quarter where I had this problem just to make sure everything is covered up, because I don't want to, you know, miss a little spot on a quarter or on the corner or on top over here and then have to respray this thing again. And I already have to bring my colors to the top, so I'm just gonna go ahead and seal this entire fender to avoid any more possible issues. And I'm gonna do the same thing with my quarter. It's really not gonna use much more material, and it's gonna ensure that I don't have this problem. Ah, man, I'm all out of my blender. I may have to sand that down now. But I'm gonna do the same thing with my quarter, so I have that. You can see how dark this is, how bad it looks. But yeah, to me, it just makes more sense to seal this to eliminate one possibility of an issue. So he's under the impression that it's my hose, which as soon as he said that, I said, you know, that makes a lot of sense. The reason why I said that makes a lot of sense is because in my booth, I have one hose over here in the corner and then another hose over here in the corner. And I always tend to use the hose over here, but it wasn't until recently that I started using the other hose in this corner over here. So I said, shoot, maybe that is the problem. So we're gonna find out if that is the problem. That's a real easy way to find out if it's the problem. Let me just use the hose I usually always use. The only other thing that my jobber could come up with was that I was using the wrong filters on my cups. By the way, shout out to Angelo. He did send another cap. So this is the HVLP 30 cap. And I have the 1.3 tip on here. So with the cups that I use, they have different filters for waterborne paint and for solvent paint. And I told my jobber, I said, no, that's not it. I've made that mistake already. I learned from that mistake already, and it can't be that. He said, all right, well then what I would do is I would start with the hose. Go back to the hose that you normally use and see if you still have the problem. And then I explained to him, I said, that's my only option, but what really sucks is I can't see this black shit until I clear it. And I've tried. On the last job I just sprayed, I tried, man. I really tried. I turned the booth lights off. I did everything I could to try to see if I was going to have that problem before I cleared. And it looked great. I didn't see anything. But as soon as I cleared it, or as soon as I put that first coat of clear on, I saw a little something. And then I put the second coat on and I saw it a little more. So we're not really going to know if the hose is the issue until after I clear it. So this will be a real exciting one if the hose isn't the problem and you guys get to see me screw up this car a second time. Now, whenever you're dealing with an issue like this, where you're trying to isolate one particular variable, the best way to do that is to do everything else by the book. So although I normally don't use a wet bed, what I did here was I just denibbed my dirt spots and then I threw a wet bed on it. Now I'm gonna go ahead and throw my second coverage coat on. And the reason why you want to do that is because you want to eliminate the possibility of any application error, right? So even though I'm a 99% sure it's nothing I'm doing that's causing this issue, I want to make 100% sure that it's not, while I'm testing the possibility of it being the air hose. This way I can make sure the only thing that I've changed is the air hose. And if my problem goes away, it's because of the air hose. I also had to dust a drop coat on these two doors on my first coat because I had a few areas that were blown through when it was prepped. So when you just attack areas like that to get coverage, you get a lot of dry overspray around the edges. So that's why I put a drop coat on the whole door. And then that's another reason why I put a wet bed on it, just to level everything out and give me essentially a fresh start. So that's our second coat. We're gonna let this dry and then we're gonna inspect it to see if we see any of those little black spots. All right, so far everything looks absolutely perfect, but it also looked absolutely perfect on the car that I just painted. And although the issue wasn't terribly noticeable, it was still there. So even though it doesn't look like I have an issue right now, I still might. Like I said before, we won't really know until we put that first coat of clear on. I'm also trying to make sure that I put this drop coat on perfectly. I really don't want to have to paint this freaking car a third time. I'll lose my mind. I could also see what you guys were saying about this gun, and the cap that I was using was the smallest fan. This fan is definitely larger with the HVLP cap on it. I can't tell if it's putting out more or less material. This is the only car that I've used it on. But I know generally I do like HVLP caps better than HTE caps for color specifically. All right, so I've given this thing ample time to dry. And I know you guys aren't going to be able to see much through the camera, but I need you to see that I'm doing everything by the book. And the only way this thing is going to come out with those black spots is if it's coming from the hose. But obviously it shouldn't come from the hose because we're using the hose that has not given us an issue in the past. So this thing should come out perfect. And if it does, then we know for sure it was the hose that was giving us the problem. We have our Omni MC161 in the gun. I'm using my DV1 and I'm at 24 PSI.
Now pray for me, guys, because I really don't want to have to do this again. I really wanted to use Angelo's gun with the HVOP cap on it for clear, but I really just don't want any more surprises with this goddamn car, so I'm playing it safe. Now, I don't know how you guys clear a whole side, but what I do is I'll do my fender, then I'll go up my post to where my front door ends, then I'll do my front door, and I go a little past the end of my door. I made a video about that. That's my personal way how I avoid overbuild on the edges of my panel. Now here I'll go to the end of the next door. When I come back this way, I stop before the end because I went further on this door. I went a little on this door, so I stop here. And on this side, I'll go past my door. And now I'll come back up my quarter. And then I'll just come down it. Just like that.
All right, it's the moment of truth. Don't mind this thing. It got thrown on me last second. So obviously I had to make it look beautiful real quick. But anyway, let's see if we have any of those freaking black spots. All right, our quarter panel seems to be perfect. Our door seems to be perfect. Now, the main place that I've had this problem has been the fender. For whatever reason, maybe it's just the easiest to see because of how it's angled. But I don't see a damn thing. So now I know, and now you guys know, in the future, if you ever have that problem that I was having, it could be your air hose. Over time, apparently, the interior of these hoses deteriorate. And I use the green hose. Not sure what hose you guys use. I'm sure if it's possible with that hose, because it's a more expensive hose, it's possible with any hose. Anyway, that's going to be it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, if you got any value out of it, or if you were entertained, if you could, drop a like, comment, or maybe even subscribe, or maybe even hit that hype button. It means a lot to me, and it helps out the channel a bunch. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Until the next time. Peace.